When you distribute a 15 to a 1/3, what are you actually doing? Dividing by 3, okay? 15 times 1/3 is 15 divided by 3, and we get 5. So we have 5b. Keep going, McCarvin.
And then I subtracted both sides by 45. And that gave me 5b is less than or equal to 6b plus 9.
Good.
Then I subtracted 6b from both sides. And that gave me negative b is less than or equal to 9. Then I divided both sides by -1. And that gave me b is greater than or equal to -9.
McCarvin, let's go. Okay, hold on. Why is McCarvin's answer right and Mr. Yurko, who said b must be less than or equal to -9, why was I wrong? Addison? Bingo. Do you see how we divided by a negative? We should have flipped that inequality. We Gucci? Okay. Matthew. Casey, were you going to ask me the same thing? Today, we are talking about something called a compound inequality. Underline that word, compound. That means we are going to have, guess what? Compound. More than one. So you're going to have 2 inequalities. Now, when they're compound, that means that they're written together. And they can be written together using 2 different words. They can be written together using an and, or they can be written together using an or, okay? Now, they're 2 completely different questions when they're using an and when they're using an or. Let's take a look at what happens when it's and, okay? So our 2 inequalities are x is greater than or equal to 2, and x is less than 5. Okay? And when they're and, that means that they overlap. Do you guys agree that shading to the right of 2 and shading to the left of 5, those regions are going to overlap? You're only going to shade in your final answer the region between those 2 numbers. Do you guys see that? Okay, so this is an example of an and inequality. Please write that right above. When it's and, you're shading the region in between them. Okay? Because they overlap in that region. Now, and inequalities can be written without using the word and. You can write it with a 2 over here, the smaller number to the left, the less than or equal to symbol, the x in the middle, the less than symbol, and the 5. Do you guys see how they wrote that? You can only write it like this for the and inequality. You can only write it like this for an and inequality. For all of the or inequalities, that word or will always be there. One more thing, Mia, I'll get to you, okay? Now, notice, was it an open or a closed circle at 2? Closed. Why was it closed?
Because there's a line.
It's less than or equal to. Please put a closed dot underneath that symbol. And then was it closed or open at 5? Open. So it's at 5, you have an open circle. And with and inequalities, you are shading between them. Mia.
So for the and inequality, do we have to say and?
So sometimes it will, but you have to know sometimes it may not. They may just write it like this. Either of these are acceptable, okay? If you answer using either of these, that's also acceptable, okay? Good question. Any other questions on and? It's a little bit better when we do an example. But guys, if we're shading in between for and, what do you think happens when we have an or inequality?
It's going to be only shading.
You shade outside, okay? So for or, they're not going to overlap, right? So you're shading to the left of the region and to the right of the region, but do you shade the middle? No, that is the only part that is not part of your solution. Do you guys see the difference between them? Label this one an or. And note, they cannot write an or inequality without what?
Or.
Without or, okay? Because if you were to write this, it would have negative 2 over here, greater than or equal to y, less than 1. Do you see how these two are facing different directions? You cannot write an or inequality like this. This is a big no-no, okay? Only and inequalities can be written as one. Yes?
What if the inequalities are going like this?
In opposite directions?
No, in the same direction.
In the same
They
direction.
overlap.
Oh. So you're saying, like, what if you had a number line, per se, and you had a number over here and a number over here, and this one you're shading this way, and this one you're shading this way?
Yeah, or the other way was shading like that way, that way.
Okay, so that's a good question. If you have one like this, right, where they're shading in different directions, this is an and inequality. It'll never say or if it's like this, because the region that you shade is in between them. Do you agree? Okay. Never will it say and here. Now, if you had the other case where they're shaded in the same direction, they're going to overlap over here to the right, right? You're not going to see this, okay? Because technically this one, it like takes precedence because it includes more of your solution. But this won't happen, okay? I promise you. This will not happen. AJ.
So it'll only be going this way.
Correct. Or we'll always shade to opposite ends. Do you guys see the difference? The middle region will be blank. Okay, let's see it in action, okay? So, a number x is greater than negative 8 and less than or equal to 4. We need to write each sentence as an inequality, and then we need to graph it, okay? Who can write the first inequality for me? Karen?
X is greater than -8.
Excellent. Now, some of you haven't seen this before. Please write this down. Circle this symbol that's in our sentence. Does anyone know what symbol that is?
And.
That's an and symbol. So write the word and. So what kind of compound inequality are we dealing with? An and inequality. Do you guys see that? And what else needs to be required of x? AJ.
X is less than or equal to 4.
Bingo. Now, just for our sake, are and inequalities capable of writing them together?
Yes.
Yes. So we're going to start with the smaller number, which is? No? Negative 8. It has to be less than what? X. And x also needs to be less than or equal to 4. So watch. We're going to draw a number line. How many numbers does Mr. Yurko need on a number line? 3. Okay, so put the 4 over here. Put the negative 8 over here. What's another number we could put on there? 0. 0 is going to lie somewhere in the middle. Do you guys agree? Okay. X needs to be bigger than negative 8. Do you guys agree? So that's to the region to the right of negative 8. What goes on negative 8, though? An open or a closed circle? Open. And then what goes at 4? An open or a closed circle? Closed. And since this is an and inequality, do we shade in between or outside? In between. So shade this region and we're done.
Mr. Yurko,
Yeah, Mia.
would you ever have to put your variable on the left side? For these?
No. So for and, do you see how our variable was on the left for both of these? It was x is greater than negative 8 and x is less than or equal to 4. So for and, it's a little bit awkward because we do put a constant to the left and a constant to the right of our variable, okay? Now, this one says you're shading in which direction compared to the negative 8? To the right, right? Did we shade to the right of negative 8? Bingo, we're happy. Did we shade to the left of 4? We're happy, okay? So we shaded in between. McCarvin. Yeah, that's the second example. We'll get there. Okay. A number y is at most 0 or at least 12. Okay, first things first. Is this an and or an or? How do you know? Literally says it. We Gucci? So this is an or. Y is at most 0. Someone convert that into an inequality. Y is at most 0. Michael.
Less than or equal to?
Very good. Y needs to be less than or equal to 0. And then at least 12. At least 12. So y needs to be less than or equal to 0, or y needs to be greater than or equal to 12. Question for you guys. Can I rewrite this one as one compound inequality? No. Why not? It's or. So we leave them separate. Are we clear on that? Okay. We're going to just draw a number line. 3 numbers, 0, 12. What else would you like to have our number line? 6? Sure. 6 is somewhere in between them. One at a time, guys. Start at the 0. Are we shading to the left of 0 or to the right of 0? To the left. And is it going to be a closed or an open dotted 0? Closed. Why? Because it's equal to. Do you guys see it? Y needs to be greater than or equal to 12. Closed or open at 12?
Closed.
And then shading to the right or to the left?
Right.
Does this match what we should expect from an or inequality?
Yes.
How do you know?
It's not shaded.
It's shading outside the region. Do you guys see that? Do we see the difference between and or? Try to see on your own. Go. Colin, what's up? No. McCarvin. AJ.
So for the or.
It's and. Why?
The symbol.
Literally says has the symbol for and. What was the first inequality? D greater than 0. And what's the second one? Excellent. D is less than 10. Did we get those? Both of my dots are going to be open or closed? Open. If it's an and, what can we do with an and inequality? You can combine it. So write 0 is less than D. D must be less than 10. So your number line should have included 0, 10. What's a good number to put in between them? 5. Open circle here, open circle here. Since it's and, we are shading in between them. Does that make sense? Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wait, what?
Like,
What number else? What other number did you put?
I did 0, and then on the right I did 10, and on the left.
Down to example 2. You guys, and inequalities are different than or inequalities. We're going to solve one of each, and you're going to see how they're different. We're going to start with letter A. Is this an and or an or inequality? Gabriel?
An and,
Very good. How do you know?
because they're combined.
Excellent. Write and large on top. This is an and because they're combined. Can we do this with or inequalities? Absolutely not. It has to have what letter or what word with it? Or, okay? Now, watch carefully. Draw a line down your inequality. And this divides my problem into how many parts? 3. Do you see how there's 3 now? Anything that you used to do to one side, you had to do to the other, right? Anything you do to the middle has to be done to all 3 sides. Anything I do to the middle has to be done to
All 3 sides.
You guys see that? So, isolate x here. What would you do to isolate x in this problem? AJ? You guys agree we would add 2? We have to add 2 on the right and on the left. So, start with -4. If you add 2 to -4, what are you going to get? So you have -2 over here. Does our inequality change when we add 2 to our inequality? No, so leave it the same. What's now in the middle? Just x. And what do I have on the right now? 5. Is x isolated? Yeah, can we stop? Sure. What else does it ask us to do? Graph it. So, we're going to draw a number line. What 2 numbers have to be on there? -2 and 5. What's another number we could put? 0 somewhere in the middle. Make sure it's closer to -2. And then open or close circles. Open at -2, open at 5. And guys, did we say this was and or this was or? And. So where are we shading? In between. Okay, pulse check. Thumbs up if you're with me, thumbs to the side if you're okay, and thumbs down if I lost you. Okay, all right. Let me show you what an or inequality looks like and how we deal with them, okay? So, and, do you see how we solve the whole thing all at the same time? Go down to letter C. Or, you have to treat them separate. How do we know this is an or inequality in letter C? It says or, so write it larger on top. This is an or. Our line goes down the middle of the OR. Treat them as two separate problems. Are we Gucci? Okay. How would you solve the inequality on the left? How would you solve the inequality on the left? Gabriel?
Add 5.
Excellent. Who's good with negatives? What's negative 8 plus 5? McCarvin? Excellent. So we have negative 3 over here on the right and 3y on the left. Do you guys agree? Who knows that final step for solving this guy? Caitlin? Excellent. Divide by 3. I'm going to get y is less than negative 1. Am I done with that inequality? How do you know? Y is by itself. Are we Gucci there? Okay, let's do the other one. Someone new. Addison.
You add 1 to both sides.
Bingo. What do I get?
2y is greater than 6.
Excellent. Brooke, take over. What do I do?
You divide by 2 on both sides.
Love it. And I get y.
Is greater than 3.
Bingo. What did we say this inequality was? What did we say this inequality was? Are we going to be shading inside or outside? Outside. Think about OO, right? Or outside. I just thought of that. Okay, draw a number line. What numbers go on my number line?
3,
Negative 1 and 3. What's another number to put on there? 0 should be closer to? Negative 1. Open or close circles, peeps? Open. Both of them or just one? Both. And which way are we shading? Outside. Double check it, guys. Double check it. Even though we know we should be shading outside, double check it. Look back. This one says shade in which direction compared to negative 1? To the left. Did we shade to the left of negative 1? Bingo. This one says shade to the right of positive 3, right? Did we shade to the right of 3? Bingo. Are we Gucci with this? All right, I want you guys to try. You have to do B, D, and F. B, D, and F. Go. McCarvin.
When you graph it, are you gonna take points off if you like don't take a 0 and go to the next?
Do you think I'm going to take points off for that? Yes. Okay, the answers to B and D are up here. One thing you should have noticed about B, when you divide by a negative 2, what needs to happen to your inequality symbols? You flip them. But in this case, how many symbols do we have? 2 of them. So we have to flip both. AJ.
I didn't look them when I divided,
Okay.
but then when I finished, I noticed that these numbers on the right said flip it.
Good. Okay. You need to show me that you're flipping, though, in your problem. Okay. So if you recognize that during your problem, go back and flip it in your work. Yeah, Addison.
For B, I didn't flip them, but I still ended up like the same.
I know. Did you hear what I just said? When you recognize that, go back into your work and change it because you got to flip it. Sophia. What? I didn't have to put 0. I could have put 5. Remember, you just need 3 numbers in total, right? Oh, this is 1.
It's just a little light.
Yeah, Casey. To B.